Gemlin the cat knocks it out of the park again with another great observation. We gotta share this with the class because you just gave us this sound, which is beautiful. So you know what that means? We gotta talk about it. So let's get into it. One of the most important sounds and shapes that you need to become familiar with is primary stations. Primary stations are your 1, 4, and 5 from whatever key you're in. So if you're in the key of F major, you take your first, fourth, and fifth note from that landscape, and those are your primary stations. You may also notice, if you're familiar with chords, that it creates a suspension chord. That's an F sus4 chord. So if you already know your sus4 chords, then you already know your primary stations. And if you don't know your sus4s, well, now you do. So getting into this, our primary stations from the key of the month, which is A flat, are right here, all black keys. But what's interesting is I can play an A flat chord and I can play those primary stations and it sounds really nice and open. I really love that sound. But what's really cool is if I play the primary stations based on my second degree of the scale, that's me imagining if I was in the key of B flat, my primary stations would be here. And so if I play that A flat chord and I play the primary stations from B flat, well, guess what? Those three notes, even though they're not the primary stations from A flat, they're still all on the landscape. And the same thing is true when I do primary stations from C, the third note of my scale. And that's the one that we talked about yesterday. That's the one I really call it the wind. It just sounds like, where did that come from? Where is it going? Now, what's really cool is you just build primary stations off the 1, the 2, and the 3, and those all stayed on the landscape. Now, if I go to the 4, those are my primary stations from D flat, and this note is not in the key of A flat. So that's not one that is gonna fit on the landscape. It doesn't mean you can't try it, but it's not gonna fit on the landscape. But you can do it off the 5, which is E flat, and those notes are all in the key of A flat. That's a really pretty sound. And guess what? It also works on the 6 if you start on the F, right? Those 3 notes, again, sounds a little different, but those 3 notes are all on the landscape. So I can play my 1 chord, and isn't that cool? Now the gem that Gemlin brought us was that you can also do it based off the leading tone. So if you take the A major chord, if you take a half step lower and build your primary stations, which is actually the primary stations from the key that you're in, you're actually creating, you're creating an A major 7 with a sharp 11. So you got a note from off the landscape. But guess what? You can go here to your actual 1 chord and do it again, build it off the G. Isn't that cool? And that gives you your major 7 sharp 11. Thanks for listening. Follow for more.